Well, good evening. I would like to welcome you. My name is Dr. Crystal Ratliff. I'm the Dean of Student Success and Retention, and it's my honor to welcome you tonight to our first event in our unique conversation series. So thank you all so much for attending. Just a quick housekeeping rules. If you could please silence your cell phone. If you need the restrooms, they're going to be out the back doors to what is my right. And finally, just to let you know, there will be a time at the end of the session for questions should you have any. And now it is my pleasure to welcome and have an introduction to Mr. Chad Crumbaker. He is our Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs, and he will introduce our speakers.
Good evening. Again, I'm Chad Crumbaker, Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs. It's my pleasure to introduce our honored guest this evening. We have with us His Royal Majesty Dr. Jacob E. Agbor, who was born into a polygamous family in Manyu town located in Manyu Division in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. He attended primary school at the government primary school in Manyu town and high school at St. Joseph's College in Buea. After high school, he worked for a few years to save money so that he could continue his education in the U.S. He was eventually able to come to the U.S. and attended Eastern Kentucky University, earning a bachelor's of business administration and management. While at Eastern Kentucky, he and his wife were married, and together they completed their MBA degrees in marketing at Mercer University. After earning his MBA, he worked for a few years before going back to Cameroon and teaching at the University of Buea. Earning a meager salary, he was unable to make ends meet, and eventually the couple decided that he should come back to the U.S. to work. And he stayed for about 5 years before being recruited to go back to Cameroon to run a community bank. After about 10 years as the general manager of the bank, he and his wife agreed that he should return to the U.S. where their children live, and continue his studies. He was admitted to the University of Georgia's campus in Atlanta, but did not have enough money to pay the deposit, and ended up going instead to Argosy University and earned a doctorate in business administration in international business. He taught at Voorhees College, now Voorhees University, from 2012 to 2016, and has since been with Aiken Technical College as Department Chair of Business and Computer Technology. In 2020, he became the traditional ruler, or the Chief of Ndekwai village, a village of about 5,000 people, after a group of 5 of 6 kingmakers selected him to take over for the late Professor Peter Abgor. If all goes as planned, his coronation as Chief of Ndekwai village will be held in December 2024. Also with us is the Honorable Dr. Agbor Magdalene Tarkan, fondly called Agbor Meg. And she hails from the Manyu Division of the Southwest region of Cameroon, a division she served as Deputy Parliamentarian from 2013 to 2019. She has been elevated with the title Nkandem by the Manyu Epke Society of her community because of her contributions to the development of her community and her fervent commitment to enhancing peace and social cohesion amidst the socio-political crisis ravaging her nation of Cameroon. She is the founder and CEO of a non-governmental organization dubbed Chame Cameroon, and founder and emeritus president of MOWA Women, the network of Manyu women's associations today in the United States, Europe, and most of Africa. She's married to His Royal Majesty Dr. Agbor Jacob of the Ndekwai Chiefdom and Manyu Division, Southwest region of Cameroon, with whom she has 3 biological children, 4 adopted children, and 2 grandchildren. The Honorable Dr. Agbor Magdalene Tarkan is a gender ambassador with over 20 years of field experience in the fight to give voice, viability, and visibility to a wide range of women in Cameroon. She contributed enormously to fighting against female genital mutilation and has been a long-standing tradition, in her division of origin. As the USA Changing Flames Business Ambassador in Cameroon, Agbor Meg has built on her BA in finance from Eastern Kentucky, her MBA in marketing from Mercer in Atlanta, and a doctorate in business administration from Atlantic International University, thereby combining her business understanding and issues of gender equality and women's economic empowerment in the cultural context of Cameroon. Please join me in welcoming our honored guest this evening.
As tradition requires, I will start by greeting all of you in my language. Hey Jay, hey Jay, hey Jay, Bekunjo Jay, Nkandao Jay, Aiken Technical College Jay, Dr. Radley for Jay, Evelyn Pride Jay, Nakisha Oj, Chap, the boy.
What?
Chap, the boy.
What?
Kamotama.
What's so?
E.
Ooh, ajao. AJ. Ndekwai. J. Manyu J. Cameroon J. America, the land of the brave. J. Aiken Tech. J. Hip, Isa
Mukanda.
Isa Nakumbu, yeah. You're all welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to use this opportunity to thank all of you for attending this August occasion, which is taking place in October. You did sacrifice your time by coming here this evening to hear the little bit that I'm going to impart to you. Thank you all so much. Some call me the chief, others call me the traditional ruler, and others also call me the king. I'd rather not take the title of king because I'll be comparing myself to King Charles. I do not have a kingdom. I rule 5,000 people in a small village known as Ndekwai in Manyu division in the Republic of Cameroon. Cameroon is the country from which I come, and the administrative capital is Yaoundé. The economic capital, where most of the economic activities take place, is known as Douala. If somebody left the United States to go to Cameroon, the plane will be landing in Douala. There you also have the seaport. The area is 183,569 square miles, and it is also stated in kilometers. The official language is English and French, but they have almost like 250 tribal languages. The population is 27 million, and the currency is the CFA franc. We are in the franc zone. Cameroon has 10 regions. And each region is headed by a presidentially appointed governor. The regions are broken down to divisions. There are 58 divisions, and each division is also headed by a presidentially appointed senior divisional officer. the divisions are broken down to subdivisions. And the subdivisions are also headed by a presidentially appointed divisional officer. There are 10 regions, like it is stated there: Adamawa Province, Central Province, East Province, Far North Province, Littoral, North, Northwest, South, Southwest, where we come from, and then the West. The GDP, that is the gross domestic product, that is the total value of all the goods and services which are produced in Cameroon, is 38.76 billion. You may think that is a very high number, but the GDP of South Carolina is 270 billion. And the population of South Carolina is about 5.6 million. So if you take the GDP and divide by the population, like in Cameroon, it gives you a GDP per capita of 1,497. The GDP per capita of a South Carolina is $52,000 and some cents. So you can see the difference. We are comparing a state and a country. Manyu, Cameroon is the developing country. Most of the agriculture, the mainstay is agriculture. And we have crops like cocoa beans, coffee beans, bananas, palm oil, cotton, rubber, tea, and so forth. Cameroon was founded by the Portuguese in the 15th century. And when they found it, they found a lot of shrimps. Some people call them prunes by the seashore, and that is why they called it Rio dos Cameroons. Rios dos Cameroons. Cameroon is located in the map of Africa, where sometimes they say it is West Africa, other times they say it is Central Africa. But that is Cameroon. And some people say Cameroon is the miniature of Africa because it contains all the topography that you can find in other parts of Africa. It is bounded by Nigeria to the north and west, Central African Republic and Chad to the east and northeast, by Gabon, the Republic of the Congo and Equatorial Guinea to the south. Like I said, Cameroon is divided into 10 semi-autonomous regions. And we've gone through the fact that the regions are subdivided into 58 divisions. Each region is headed by a presidentially appointed governor. In 1884, the name was changed to Cameroon by the Germans. And after World War I, Cameroon was divided between the French and the English, the United Kingdom, as the League of Nations mandates. In 1960, the French part of Cameroon gained its independence, and it became the Republic of Cameroon under President Ahidjo. Okay, that's the picture of Ahidjo right up there. And in 1972, the Federation, in 1961, the English part of Cameroon, where I come from, where we come from, was federated with the French Cameroon to become the Federal Republic of Cameroon. And in fact, they gave the English-speaking part of Cameroon a choice. Are you going to gain your independence by joining Nigeria or by joining the Republic of Cameroon. And we decided to go with the French speaking. In 1972, the Federation was abandoned, and Cameroon was renamed the United Republic of Cameroon in 1984 by a presidential decree meted out by Paul Biya, who became the president in 1982 after Ahidjo resigned. So Paul Biya, that is his picture, the second one. And he is still the president of Cameroon to date. Imagine that in 1960, Cameroon had independence. We are in 2023. That is how many years? 60, 40, is that 73? 73 years, we've only had 2 presidents in these 73 years. And Paul Biya, who is standing right there, and that is also Paul Biya with our former president, Barack Obama, with his wife, and that is Paul Biya with his wife. The national flag, which had 2 stars, the 2 stars that were in the national flag, one stood for the French speaking, and the other stood for the English speaking. But when the name was changed, the flag became now only with 1 star, because Cameroon became the United Republic of Cameroon, and the 1 star was a symbol of unity. 70% of the population do farming, and most of the farming is subsistence, that is farming to consume. And the farming is done with very simple tools. Farming is not mechanized. Most of it is locally done. Electricity is provided by hydroelectricity power from the river Samaga. And there are many times when there is no power supply. Like when I was home this past May, it was like I took the electricity from the US to Cameroon, because my wife was surprised that every day we had electricity. And there was a time I left her and I went to a neighboring town and there was no electricity. When I had to come back, I came back, electricity came. So America, thank you so much for electricity. Okay? And you can imagine a country whereby we have 2 seasons, the rainy season and the dry season. The dry season, temperatures go up to about 115, and humidity is very high. For us not to have electricity, to have either a fan or air conditioning, it is bad. We have adjusted to the situation. Life expectancy, the life expectancy of a Cameroonian is 62.3 years. And 60% of the population is under the age of 25. 3.11% of the total population is over 65 years old. That is where I belong. Marriage is monogamous and polygamous. Monogamous, 1 man, 1 wife. Polygamous, 1 man, many wives. I come from the polygamous home. My father was married to 4 wives. And we have many children, dotted almost all over the world. We are about 10 of us in the US. The total literacy rate is estimated at 71.3%, according to the 2013 figures. For healthcare, there is 1 doctor to about 5,000 people. There is religious freedom and diversity which are practiced. The majority faith is Christianity, and it is practiced by 2/3 of the population. Of these Christians, Catholicism produces the highest number of Christians. Islam is a significant minority faith in Cameroon. Our cuisine varies per region, okay, but our evening meals constitute of one heavy meal. Our dressing, our fashion also mixes modern and the traditional elements of dressing. Chieftaincy in my village, in Ndekwai village. Like I told you, Ndekwai has a population of about 5,000 people. And it is located in a Umojok subdivision, in Manyu division. Chieftaincy in Manyu is both hereditary and rotatory. What I mean by hereditary is if your father was a chief and anything is to happen to him, he will appoint somebody from his family, select somebody from his family to take over from him. But in terms of rotatory, it rotates from one section to the other. And in Ndekwai village, chieftaincy rotates among 6 families. The families are known as quarters. Each quarter has a kingmaker, a quarter head, an elder. The kingmakers are selected by members of that quarter. The qualities of kingmakers are: they must show humility, honesty, reliability, know the history of the village, and can also keep secrets. Why should they be able to keep secrets? Because when they are going to select the next chief, until the envelope is opened and meets the whole village, it has to remain a secret. Again, the chief can replace all of these members except the kingmakers. The chief cannot replace the kingmakers. The chief cannot be retired. So as I'm the chief of Ndekwai, I will not be retired. I will stay chief until I am called. Or I can decide to abdicate the throne if I so choose. That is the organigram, the organizational chart of Ndekwai village. At the top is the chief. And then below that you have the regent. As I'm here in the US, is the regent that is running the village. But every night, almost every night, I get calls for some matters that are above him. So those are referred to me for me to take a decision. And then you have the village elder. And I have advisors and family elders. I'm here in the US. I do not know very much about the culture. So I need the advisors and the village elders to always tell me this is how things used to be and this is how things should be. Below you have the traditional council, whereby I am the chairperson of the traditional council. The regent is the vice chairman of the traditional council. Then below the traditional council, you have the health committee, you have the natural resources committee, you have the security committee, you have the land committee, you have the water committee. And then at the bottom, you have cultural week. Every year, that is what used to happen. All the sons and daughters of Ndekwai will go back to the village and then have a cultural week whereby there will be a display of their culture, there will be some competition, there will be dancing, there will be entertainment, and that will also be, that is usually an occasion whereby they meet, a number of them meet with their relatives. Choosing a chief in Ndekwai village. So if a chief dies, a new one is to be selected by kingmakers. There is no specific period of time that he has to take. for the new chief to be selected. I am the sixth in that order. 5 other chiefs have been before me. And the interesting thing is that all the 3 of us studied here in the US. The one I took over from, studied in University of South Carolina in Columbia. The one he took powers from studied at Tuskegee University. And then here am I also studied here in the United States. So, like I told you, the kingmakers come from each quarter, and there are 6 quarters in the village. So when they assemble in secret, during the dead of the night when most people are asleep, they converge to a particular location and they start looking around. Each quarter will introduce a candidate. That candidate is vetted. And then they go to the next. And the candidate is also vetted. So they vet all of them, and then they decide on one. When they decide on that one, they put the name in an envelope, seal the envelope, and give it to the chairperson, the vice chairman of the traditional council. On a particular day, they will invite all the villagers to assemble in the town hall. And then the vice chairman will open the envelope and announce the name. And when the name is announced, then they will call the person that has been selected, if the person is not there. In my case, it was around 2 a.m. when I had a call, and I answered, and I heard so much noise in the background, and they made me understand that the village was assembled, and that I have been selected as the chief of the village. Will I accept it? So I told them that, well, if that is what all of you have said, and you'll be willing to work with me, I do accept it. And there was applause and dancing and drinking and all the rest. So after that, they sent the person's name to the divisional officer. Like those of you who were here earlier, you saw the videos, the divisional officer. Okay, they send the name to him. The divisional officer will also do his own vetting. They'll carry out a background check. They will look at your educational level. They look at the contributions that you've made in development in the village. They look for somebody who has a lot of empathy, humility, who is a strategic thinker, who is authentic, and who will provide, he will be like a role model to the rest of the people. And when they send this to the divisional officer, he will also do his own vetting. And if you meet all the requirements, then he will give a date to come to the village to be able, for him to be shown who has been selected as the chief of the village. Okay? So on that particular day, the administrator will go to the village for consultative talks. And there is usually some opposition. And there are usually people who disturb, who think that they were supposed to have been the chiefs. But if they were not selected by the kingmakers, it will just be empty noise. Okay? In my village, like I told you, there are 6 quarters. 5 kingmakers stood behind me, supported me. And 1 kingmaker supported a guy who is in Delaware State University and who is making so much noise that his family, members of his family are supposed to be the chief. But that is, like I told you, his noise. So when the administrator finishes with his findings and he confirms, then a date will be set for coronation. Like I've been telling a number of you here that, hey, if I'm to be coronated, all you need to do is to pay your ticket to and fro, accommodation will be on me, and feeding will be on me. Okay? So on the date of the coronation, it's an elder in the village who will come and wear a crown on my head. Not this one. There's a particular crown. And the stool that I'll be sitting on, if you look at here, there is the skin, human rights, please, this is not real. Okay? I'll be sitting, and my feet will be on the skin, and then on both sides there will be an elephant tusk. And then I'll be surrounded by security. Okay? And my family, my wife, and the wives of the former chiefs will also sit with us. In attendance will be other chiefs, the administrator, villagers from other villages, friends, family, priests, pastors, and you name it. Then, before the occasion ends, there will be presentation of gifts, and there will be entertainment. The functions of a traditional ruler. Traditional rulers in Manyu are custodians of the customs and traditions of the Manyu people. Many years ago, when traditional rulers stayed in the villages, it is because almost all of them were farmers. But these days, things have changed. That is why you have traditional rulers, some in the US, some in Great Britain. I think in the US, we are about 5 of us here in the US. And all of us have regions there. Because we cannot stay at the village to do farming, okay? That is why we are out. But we still get into contact. With these days of, the world has become a globalized world. Just a click of the finger, you'll be able to call people in Cameroon and talk to them, okay? So traditional rulers are custodians of the customs and traditions of the Manyu people. They are responsible for transmitting the directives of administration to their people and ensuring that such directives are implemented. They are responsible for the maintenance of law and order. They are responsible for collecting taxes and fees. We don't more perform this function because local farmers do not more pay taxes. So we don't collect taxes and we don't collect fees. We settle disputes through arbitration. When I went home last May, there were some matters that were treated. They went over the matters, they passed their decision. But the litigants, one of them was not satisfied with the decision that had been taken. So he took an appeal. So when I went home, there were 3 such matters, and I had to go over them, and they were settled. We are also responsible for mobilization of our people for development purposes. We act as links between our communities and development agencies. We also promote economic and social development. And thank God that I have a woman who is very pushful. She's been able to do a lot in my village. And she studied here in the US, and she's a liberated woman. Okay? You can see, when we came here, she was over there, and I was over here. Okay? We are responsible for performing traditional rites and presiding at traditional council meetings, like I told you. we are responsible for all the natural resources in our villages or towns. The village I come from has a lot of forest, a lot of forest, virgin forest, that has never been farmed on. I mean, from the beginning of my village, they have been farming on a certain area, but now it is time for them to go over to the virgin forest. We have some hiccups because we need a bridge to go over the river that separates this side of the old farms and the new farms. And I also want to sound this note of caution that we as chiefs do not have any legal powers of arrest.
Okay, here. Oh,
Okay. My dear brothers and sisters, it's quite a pleasure. And like the chief says, I only want to add that the Queen Mother only serves to complement the work of the chief. The only difference is that in the yesteryears, our mothers will always do the advisory role in the background. But today, the new generation, we always want to make sure that people also see and feel us. I'm also privileged that I'm married to a chief who is so open-minded, who has also lived in a society where there is, don't kill me, true democracy. That's why I say don't kill me. So my dear brothers and sisters, all I do is to compliment his work. And for me, as a civil society activist, the biggest role I think I should play is to build and promote social cohesion, is to build and promote peaceful coexistence. You will not understand the importance of peace until when you are put in the situation where we are facing today. I could resonate with the Hamas and Israeli situation because that is what we are. Like he said, 2 regions are English-speaking regions, 8 are French-speaking. The world may think that it is a war of languages. No. Rather, I stand here to say it is a war of governance. Governance. When there is poor governance, when there is lack of accountability, in the yesteryears it will pass. But today, the youth, the internet, has exposed everybody, and we cannot do things the same way they have been done in the past. That is why I say, I am just there to compliment. And if I can build on that tool of building cohesion, the world has forgotten about humanity. The world has become so materialistic that empathy no longer exists. And people who are always marginalized will always rise. As long as there is injustice, they will always rise. And in my case, if there is any legacy I want to leave, is to make the reign of my husband to be that reign that will take cognizance of the human face And it is a tool that the whole world has to tend to. Because when you marginalize others, when you are unjust, there can never be any room for you. So I want to end here by thanking Aiken Tech for this activity. For this activity so that you expose your children to the world. Let them come and see that the rest of the world is not a comfort zone like their zone. Let them know that there is something else that is not up to what they are. And let them learn already to start having empathy for others who don't have the privileges that they have. So that tomorrow when they are leaders, they will want or have to use a little bit of empathy when they are making their policies. Because any leader who has not got an iota of empathy may not come up with policies that will resonate with majority of the people. So, again, always when I'm given an opportunity, I want to say my mind. I am an activist, made politician, but I always say I'm a new breed politician, a politician with human feelings. And if all of us sit here, take it back home. Today, the children who have come will know that there is somebody in another planet who has children and people who don't have the same opportunities that they have. And tomorrow, if they are leaders, what provision do you make for such class of people? Because that is the only way you will have your peace. If I cannot eat, and you can eat, in the long run, I'll make sure you don't eat too. That is what is happening. If I don't have accommodation, and you are well accommodated, I will make sure that I bother you with all of it. That is the power of empathy. Whether a leader, whether a mother, and women, you may not know how to answer. I always say, woman, oh yeah, yeah. Women make half of the skies. It is the woman who can change. We nurture. We know where it pinches. Even though we do it at the background, we have to make sure that it works. I am not here to condemn. No, the men are doing their best. What we are saying is, the world is being manned by men. And if things must work, the men must include the women. After all, we make up more than 50% of the population of the world. We don't see any reason why we should not be included in decision-making processes. I'm going to rest my case here and say, Aiken Tech, oh yeah. If we are together, we are together. Any subsequent questions or what you want to know, the youths who are here, I love you all for coming. Someday I want you to come to Cameroon so that you see other children who are not as privileged as you are. But the world is becoming a small village. Let us allow love to reign. Thank you, God.
We do have some questions.
Two quick comments. First, Dr. Agbor, your dad married to 4 wives. That's impressive. I can't. One wife. Secondly, I'm from Augusta University, and we had a basketball player from Cameroon, which is impressive. He spoke French. My third question may be a little controversial. So, in your opinion, in the history of Cameroon, it's founded by Portugal, you had French influences, English influences. Imperialism, was it negative or positive? I'm just curious. What's your take on that? A good one.
It has its negatives and it has its positives. I can only speak on the part of when the English took over, when the English colonized the English part of Cameroon. And they brought in a few developments. They had a military that was protecting the people. They built roads. They had water systems. And they put some electricity. There was some power. But when the English were absorbed by the French, as all of you know, the French economy depends on the economy of those colonized French countries in Africa. Because our foreign reserves are all kept in France. And any time that you want to get your money, they would rather ask you to take a loan. You know the case of Niger Republic, where an ounce of uranium was being bought by was it 80 cents or so? And then when they sent out the French, the 1 ounce of uranium was now being sold for 200 pounds. And that is what we are going through. The way it is in Cameroon now, or in most of the countries of Africa, the young have started rising against the regime. And it is not as it used to be, because elections are rigged. At first, they were holding elections using chiefs' palaces to hold elections there. We as chiefs are supposed to be non-partisan. But are we that way? Not many of us are not. So imperialism, colonialism helped us a little bit. I mean, our system of education was British, and it was very solid. And we don't, and like I told you, we have 250 languages in Cameroon. Which particular language will you use to teach people? Like it is in the world, English is the most famous language. Air controllers, the first language that air controllers are supposed to know is English. So if we're not colonized by the English, if we're colonized by maybe neighboring African countries, what language would we have been speaking up to today? So it has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. I hope I've answered your question.
It is, it's awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one. Okay. So I wanted to ask, I like the whole, like the way your government is set up. Do you believe that it would be so inclusive if you were a bigger, if you wasn't so divided into 10 nations, 10 different districts, if y'all was smaller? Do you believe that your same system would work in a broader territory? Does that make sense?
Can you hear?
Dr. Raleigh, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so she is just curious that if you believe the way that your division of your country is, if that would work in a larger
Yeah.
country, that the way that it's structured of the division.
Our country was larger. The way it is structured is very advantageous. What we are facing now is a systemic problem, okay? Because here in the United States, you have 3 arms of the government.
Mm-hmm.
You have the legislative, you have the executive, and you have the judiciary, okay? In my country, it is said that it is also like it is in the US. But like when I was going through those slides, you saw that the governors are not elected. They are appointed by the president. The senior divisional officers are appointed by the president. The divisional officers are appointed by, everything is by the government. Okay? I read to you what our GDP was. It was about 38 point something billion. Let's look at the GDP of the smallest state in the US, Vermont. Their GDP is about 40 billion. South Carolina, the GDP is about 270 billion. South Carolina is number 24 on the line. Okay? The states with the highest GDP, if you look at California, it is in trillions, about 3 point something trillion. You look at Texas, it is about 2 point something trillions. And then you look at New York, it's about 2 point something trillion. So the problem that we're having is that our economy is a primitive economy, okay? We depend more on the public sector. But here in the US, we rely more on the private sector. So even if the country was to be big and they change the system whereby there are checks and balances, it will improve. But if the country gets bigger and we still use the same system that we are using there will be no improvement. And as we're speaking here, we have to walk through a very thin line. As she's sitting here, there have been 2 attempts on her life. And I have also had attempts on my life. And we have to be very careful about what we say here. We enjoy a democracy where somebody can stand and say anything to the president or the president's wife. It cannot happen in my country. Things are getting better because the type of things I hear now, radio stations are speaking about, they never used to say, they were not able to say those things many years ago. Things are improving. Things are improving. So hopefully, in the years to come, maybe in the other generation, things will fare better. The truth about it is, we have everything that is needed. If we have people who loved our country, Cameroon, we will be better off than countries like, places like Kuwait and the rest. Because we have the human capital, we have the natural resources, we have everything. But most of our resources are ending up in Swiss banks and in offshore banks. Transparency International ran some information some years ago. We were right almost at the bottom because there is so much corruption going on in the country. There's so much of it, so much of it. And when COVID came, we received some monies from international communities. The monies disappeared. And the investigation was carried out. Up to today, we don't know the results. No persons have been arrested. But you see, corruption is really endemic. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
I am turning on my chair. I want to say just a little something. I gave it a second thought when my brother talked about the parents. Yeah, the truth is there, advantages and disadvantages. My brother, in the yesteryears, when people were not, open, not like today, the people who kind of took charge, the parents,
levels of education was different. They were more educated. They saw the resources in our land. They gave us a little help they could give. But they gave that help because they had a lot to take out. And when they took away that, the people of those days, the virtue of respect and secrecy was still so prevalent. So they could do the things they did for the little they gave. And they never knew that they were having little for the much they took. But today, with especially the internet, where you can scream here the next second the whole world knows, the youths can see. They have mingled with these same imperialists in their own countries, and they know better. So they are beginning to see that what they gave them is not good enough for what they took out of them. Yes, it's the issue of poor governance, poor accountability. But who is behind the governance and accountability? The same imperialists. What do you say when billions, when the head of state of a country sends billions into your bank account? Do you not have measures in place to make sure that is not done? You receive, you cover them all. Elections are held, you come with a lot of money. You give to the have-nots. They take and eat and they do as you say. This is the period when the actions of imperialists are not needed and are not wanted. Because the youths of today, the world of today, is seeing and they are beginning to say no. It's not so much that they are refusing that they didn't come to help. They did, but they did for a price. And now we are beginning to see that the price is more than what we are having. Don't these imperialists who support these leaders and come during elections for election supervision at the same time, they are the ones who are making sure that the good old people who have been there for 70-something years are still retained because they work according to their, whims and caprices. That is why the world is turning upside down, because people are beginning to see those other edges, those other areas that are not fair and just. Until we change our ways, we transform the transformers, the world is going to be a bitter battleground. Even I always say, in the country of God, Israel, look at what is happening there. So change has come, and change it must be.
I just wanted to ask if, on the organizational chart for the chiefdom, how much of those roles are held by women, if at all, or can be held by women?
Lorraine. That's a very good question. In fact, when I was introduced as a chief, my first proposition was that I want some women to also be kingmakers. And they told me to stop it right there. To stop it right there, that I shouldn't continue. And the argument was this: what if you put a woman as a kingmaker, and the woman gets married to somebody like from Kenya? The woman will go to Kenya and leave that position vacant. So it is good to have men. I said, okay, let's have quarter heads as women. It was also a no. Cameroon is a male-dominated society. It's a male-dominated society, which is where she comes in. She's trying to change a lot in my village. to bring women to the forefront. But all of those positions, you have women represented in the council, in the traditional council. I even said a councillor, I mean the vice chairperson, should be a woman. They said, no way, never will it happen. So, but, you know, change starts gradually. Eventually, it will spread. But to make a woman a chief in the society, in Cameroon in general, it will take so many hundreds of years for that to happen. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Chief, can I add a little something?
Yes, ma'am.
No, I just want to say something. In my country, politics, it used to be all men. And it was in 2013. I'm not a politician. I always say I'm a civil society activist. Me getting into politics, it was just a simple note that you must join us. And if I had not, it would have been worse than I would have had it. That's why I said, no, I cannot join because you politicians, you tell lies, you make promises, when you're there, you don't do anything. So no, we've changed. It never changed. I want to say before we got the 30-70% of women today in our parliament, 30%. It's a one-man fight. I started a one-man fight. And who sponsored it? It was European Union. I saw European Union. And I went out. Advocacy. I was called names. She's not a woman, she's a man. I said, I agree, but as long as we can also say. And sometimes women themselves are so timid. But that advocacy, I was happy. The head of state picked it and made it a condition for the 2013 elections. That 30% of the list must be women. And today we are moving above 30%. So my husband and Chief of Ndekwai, don't worry. They say they don't want women. We have a saying that small catch monkey will not rush. It's continuous advocacy, continuous sensitization. And when some of them all will have daughters as children, I will see what happens. So we are not rushing in, but we are not slowing down. We will keep advocating and sensitizing and educating the women. The day we become majority population, we're going to turn the tables upside down. Division even is the hope of genital mutilation. And you won't believe it. My mother used to be the female chief of all the women in Manyu division, and she was at the heart of mutilation. My sister, who had the opportunity to have lived in Nigeria, got on her case because she wanted it done with us. And my sister said, you dare not. She protected us. Then I was young. Then I came to the US. My eyes got really opened. Then I went back home and I said I must fight what my mom was doing is not correct. According to tradition, it is said that they have to mutilate every girl so as to cut your so that somebody should help you. There is a word that you are not feeling too sexy.
Clitoris,
You cut the clitoris.
pleasure. To demise and pleasure.
Yes, there is an English word for that. That was because I asked her why. She said, no, they want their daughters to be married as virgins. That is the story behind mutilation. Because they want you to remain a virgin until, because at marriage, this virgin woman is a bold exercise. Because my mama told us so, and they all know, it's a whole exercise. And if it is realized that you're not a virgin, it's a big problem. You may lose your marriage. So that was the mentality. And again, and then it was also used as a source of income because when they mutilate, they receive a stipend for that. So when I came back, then the head was still popping. And when I talked to her, I said, don't bring that to American thing here. I kept quiet. But when, thanks to the Israelis for, training me, when I did my proposal and trickled up USA said, we like that idea, we're going to support it. I started again, education, sensitization, giving them reasons. You have to give people reasons why that should not be done. And fortunately, I'm also an actress. So I got it into the movie industry. And we acted a movie on female genital mutilation and breast ironing. And then home movies, was a big tool. So they started watching these movies, especially breast ironing. I would talk to the chiefs. I said, imagine that was your daughter. Imagine if that was done to your daughter. Imagine if your daughter was mutilated, because with very crude tools, some people died and so forth and so on. And you start walking in their minds. So there is no civilized man who will use a knife on another human being for a reason that is so, it is not even important. And that is how we started acting the movie, people watching the movie, education, sensitization, advocacy, and the Minister of Women's Empowerment picked it up, conducted a study to know the resonance of that kind of action, so for the reasons I have told you, as a source of income and a tradition, and of course, now, policy came up that you mutilate, you take it to court, and so on and so on. And frankly, today, Chief, I want to tell you without any promotion, that mutilation is a done deal. It's no longer history that part in my motivation.
Okay, my question is, so probably you can tell I look Asian. So I'm from China, so I'm Chinese. But we have also another American Chinese or Asian American here. So I call myself Chinese. It's kind of weird for me when I talk to people who grew up here in America, even though like two Asian Americans, myself and them, we look alike, but actually we don't have much in common. So as someone from Africa, we also have the long history of slavery in this region. How do you feel you are connected to the Black community here? No, like both, yeah.
How do we communicate or deal with the Black community here?
Yeah, like how you feel your connection with them, your relationship with them.
Are you talking of the African Americans?
Yes.
I mean, we have a good relationship. Recently, African Americans have started identifying where they come from in Africa. And I was speaking to, was it Evelyn or was it somebody, and he said, no, Sean. Sean with WJBF. He says his roots are from Cameroon and Nigeria. The other time I was speaking to the Vice President's Administrative Secretary, that is Patsy. And Patsy told me that she carried out a tree and she had some blood from Cameroon. And if you go to Ghana right now, there are African Americans who are staying in Ghana, who have gotten land there and they have built there. And to live in Africa is pretty cheap. I mean, I'll give you an example. I was the general manager of a 10-branch bank, and my salary was about equivalent of $500 a month. It's not really the money that matters, it's how much the money can buy. Life is very comfortable in Africa, and you have quite a number of Americans who are going to Africa, who are identifying themselves, where they come from. I think somebody told me that this lady who has a TV station, Oprah, Oprah followed her roots to Cameroon. And there are many other ones who are doing the same, trying to follow their roots where they come from. So here we have a good relationship. We have a good relationship. But there are some Africans who come here and they want to overdo things. And they carry some ideas from here and go back to Africa. I mean, if you carry an idea from here, it is good. But when you go to Africa, like to Cameroon, look at the environment. See how you can adapt what you have taken from here to our conditions there in Cameroon. Okay? So the relationship is very good. It is very, very cordial relationship. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I wanted to add a little something there. When I listened to you, it gave me the impression that you have some maybe vibes that give you the impression that maybe there is no, good relationship. I want to say this, because I studied in the United States and I was here for years and for understand. Before I came to the United States, I never thought that the human being was two. I only knew that some are white, some are black, but everybody is one. I want to say, from the question you asked, that history has been told in various ways to various persons. If you see people behave, if you see a black American behaving in a certain way, maybe to an African, it is based on the stories she's been told. And people tell their stories the way they want people to know. Some stories are not told correctly. Because when I was coming here, my mind was not tinted against the black American. So when I saw, I just said I'm going to America, I knew that everybody in America is white. And when I saw them, I was so excited. I was really excited. I said, so the impression, so you see the impression. Then I started listening to the stories. Then I started hearing. It depends who is telling the story and who. Some black Americans have been told stories that are not really the way the stories are. And if you have the bad side, the tendency is that your heart will be bitter. If you get a good side of that, for everybody's level, you'll be able to judge. And again, I want to say, people are different. Meg Agbor is a Casanova, maybe. I live with everybody, I love everybody. You meet some other person, the person's attitude is not an extrovert. So, personal attitudes based on history told matters. But like my husband says, we still have a lot to tell people. Let us forget the past, the bitter past. Things were done then because of the way the people there were brought up. Today, I'm only beginning to adjust to this Android generation. But the way they do their things is not the way I would have loved for them to do. But that is their generation. That is what it is. You cannot condemn the generation before the Android generation because it made people, it made the world, and we have to appreciate that. But how do we connect? How do we connect so that we don't look at one side as being totally bad and one side as being totally good? In all, yes, black Americans, when I say black Americans, I say American Americans who are African Americans. The doors are open. And the other time, a group of them just came to the Prime Minister. When we see them on TV coming, we are so happy and everybody wants to go and meet them. So again, I'll end up by saying, love conquers every history that is not properly told. Let us look at the now and let's live for one another. The color is nothing, the same blood that flows, the same everything and so forth and so on.
like we have time for one final question, and now the microphone works.
I just want to make a comment. The reason why I did come to this forum, I did do like the ancestry, and my ancestry is Cameroonian. So I wanted to find out about the traditions and everything. And that's why I'm here, so I'm so happy. And there are a lot of African Americans that are looking for their roots and their identity and wanting to know the traditions and all of that. So yes, this has been fantastic. Yeah, I'm just happy to be here, and thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
And that's a great note to end on, correct? So I thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you so much for speaking and giving us the insight to Cameroon and to your country and to your chieftaincy. And we are so appreciative. Now it's really working. So appreciative of you all, and so appreciative of you all for attending. Please, if you did not help yourself to some of the refreshments, do so now. And I believe that they will be staying around for a little while to answer any final questions that you weren't comfortable asking out loud. So thank you all for coming. Stay tuned. There'll be another unique conversation session in January. Thank you so much.